What do you think to the new background? What up YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be making a Guitar Hero rack for all my too many Guitar Hero guitars. That's a lot of guitars. Let's get started. So as said in the intro, I'm going to be building a rack for my Guitar Hero guitars, and I've got 7 of them, which is way too many that anybody actually ever needs, but I've just accumulated them over the years. But they've just been sat on the floor in the way for too long, so I thought, well, let's make a display of them and get them out of the way. So obviously you don't need to build something as big as this. I'm going to try and include, if I can find everything that I did in Fusion, which admittedly wasn't a lot, but anything I did do I'll put in the description below for like the template for them. But I think I ended up changing it like 2 or 3 times, so that's probably not that useful. I'll see what happens on that anyway. But yeah, I made all this just out of offcuts of timber that I already had. And granted, if you wanted to build this yourself, even the big one that I'm doing, you'd only really need 2 boards. And if you weren't going to do one for like 2 or 3 perhaps, then you probably only need the 1 board. Anyway, enough talk, let's get on with the build. So this is the wall that I'm going to be attaching the Guitar Hero rack to. If you're wondering, that's actually a Gigabyte poster from like Insomnia 43, the gaming event, a while ago. Anyway, first I started off with a template that I printed out, and I actually extended a little bit on a few times there because I wasn't sure how big or how long it needed to be to stand out from the wall. So here I'm just marking where the naff bit at the end of the wood is and cutting it off with a miter saw, and then I just layered the template back on top, marked where I thought the angle needed to start, and then cut it off with the same miter saw. Yep, I definitely need a new blade in that saw, right? There's smoke everywhere. So here I'm just marking where the cutout needs to be for the neck of the guitar. I'm just using a square here to make sure that the lines are all nice and parallel, so it looks all nice and consistent when it's done. And then I'm using a Forstner bit, which is the same radius of the back of the neck of the guitar, if that makes sense. So when it's in place, it will sit back nice and it shouldn't shift left and right. I made the cutout quite deep on purpose. That was so I could put the guitars in place, and then hopefully they'll stay there without needing any sort of clip or retention arm on the front. I decided to use the bandsaw to cut out the actual hole itself. I actually started off with a guide, as you can see in the video here, but I was actually having the blade starting to shift because it's quite a thin blade, and with that guide being in the way I had no room to actually adjust and stop that from happening, so I just ended up finishing it without that installed. If you're looking to replicate this yourself, then it turns out that the cap from a WD-40 can is the perfect radius to finish this edge off nicely. Now, because I didn't get quite near enough to the lines with the bandsaw, I'm just finishing it off with a rasp, and then I go over it also with a file afterwards, just to smooth the edges ready for sanding later on. So next I cut down the wood to size, which is going to be the baton that attaches to the wall, and all the brackets are going to be attached to that. I cut it down to size and then went over it with various sanders that I had available at the time, just to smooth the edges, make the wood look nice, because it was a bit discoloured from wherever it came previously, because all the wood in this is all reclaimed stuff. It's all stuff that I had lying around. I wanted to route the edges next, but because I didn't have a router table, I kind of set up a bit of a dodgy setup here, granted, but it's clamped in a workmate and then sort of 2 boards either side to stop it from going either side. But it's pretty sturdy, and you can probably see my dad just in the background. He's on emergency stop duty just in case something goes wrong. You've probably noticed by now that the actual pieces are shorter than they were before. And that was just because I did some iron up on the wall, and it turned out that the other ones were going to be way too long, so I ended up cutting them down, making them shorter, and now they sit nicely on the wall. But here I'm just finishing off sanding, going through the grits from, I believe it was like 40 or 80 up to 260 or 240 grit I went to in the end. Made a nice finish on them. I also sanded the baton piece that's going to go on the wall to the same grit as well. And then I'm just going over it with some Colron wood dye, which looks like something from the 1950s, something my dad had for years. So we're still using it up, but it makes a really nice finish on this wood. Of course, at this stage you can dye it whatever colour you want, or even paint it. It's entirely up to you. I went with this Colron stuff just because it was A, it was there, and B, it's like a nice oil based one, so it makes like a nice shiny finish, where some of the dyes make a matte finish. So it's up to you really. Now, you won't have to do this, but I'm having to route out some channels out of the back of the baton piece so it can fit flush against the wall on top of some already existing brackets that's on the wall for the shelf above it. But like I said, you won't need to do that yourself. This is just something that I needed to do to make it fit where I wanted it to. I didn't have a very good way of lining them all up, so I ended up clamping some aluminium angle and attaching the two end brackets already, so I could then work out what the spacing was. And to get the spacing right, I ended up 3D printing a little spacer, and that way I could push it against the aluminium angle at the back, and then push it to the left so it's against the spacer, screw it in place, and I'll know that it's where it should be. It's a little bit difficult to see here, but I'm actually just pre-drilling the holes ready for the screws, then taking the bracket off, drilling a little bit further in so the screws got enough room to go all the way in. Then I'm countersinking the holes on the back of the baton piece so I can then screw the actual screws in so they're flush with the board, so when it's against the wall it won't stick out. I did them one at a time just so I could make sure the positioning was right, and then I pre-drilled again, countersunk, put the screw in, and then it was all nice and strong. I've got to be honest, I didn't expect to get them this even, but that spacer really helped, so if you've got the facility to make yourself some sort of spacer, I definitely recommend it. So my dad's kindly given me a hand here to get it attached to the wall. I just drilled into the wall, put a raw plug in, and then I think there was like 3 or 4 screws I put in, and it seems pretty strong. Of course, the last thing to do is to put all the guitars on and see how it looks. Now, of course, nobody needs this many guitars. This is just me being obsessive. But I think the actual finished result is really, really cool. But there we have it, there's the finished build. Come out really well. I was actually quite surprised myself how well they actually came out in the end, because I thought, well, doing them every one of them manually, I thought, well, there's going to be discrepancies here and there, and it was actually that bad, to be honest. If you had a CNC, it would be so much easier to just be like, done, but I don't have one, unfortunately. But yeah, let me know what you think of the new background. I'm not decided on it yet. I do like it, but I'm not sure whether it's, you know, best suited. It might be better that later on, you know, as we do different projects and things, it might be that the projects go on there rather than just a load of Robot Wars stuff, which I do really like, but it's not everything we do on the channel, so let me know what you think on that one anyway. Hopefully I'll be back to somewhat of a better schedule. I didn't really have a schedule anyway, to be honest, but hopefully I want to upload more often now I've got a little bit more time on my hands. Perhaps not before Christmas. I don't know, I'll see how I get on. But I'm going to try and do some more projects with this. I've got an exciting new project, potentially with CNC related stuff, but I'll let you know on that one as and when it comes. I've also got some more robot projects to come up. I've got bear drills to finish, which I've been teasing for the last year or so, and that's just because I haven't finished it, because there haven't really been any events that I've been able to go to with, you know, the recent unpleasantness and everything. But that's to come. I've got to finish Jabby, which is the sort of, she's going to be called Jabby McTunicorn Face, and she's the next she's basically Stabby's girlfriend, but we won't go into that too much. Hopefully robot wise there are going to be some bigger and better things coming soon as well, so I won't say any more, but it's pretty exciting. But anyway, as always, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I ran out of air in the middle of that. And I shall see you next time. Ta-da! I know! Me! I've got actual back. Oh no, shit. Let's start that one again. The fact. Do I look like a pleb? I do look like a pleb. I don't know, I'll look afterwards. If this is shit, then you won't see any of this.